Hi everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the book Refuge and welcome to my weekly reading wrap up. This week, as usual, I have quite a few. I think I have 13 books to talk about today. The end of my October books and starting in November books, because as you will see if you watched my TBR from the other day, that I actually already read like 4 books off of that TBR because I'm an impatient woman and I couldn't make myself behave long enough to wait. So much to the chagrin of, well, not chagrin because they'll read it with me whenever, but some of the people that I'm buddy reading with, Crystal, I already read 2 of the books that were buddy reading in November, and she's like, well, I'm doing the paranormal readathon, so I kind of need to focus on those before I can start them. And I was like, don't worry, it's fine. But I went on a bit of a audio binge, and you'll see. But I basically listened to 4 historical romances, all of which were on my list for November, but I was just in a mood and I just wanted to soak up historical, which is great because I have quite a few historical rec videos coming in the next few months, you know, for people reading Bridgerton and then wanting to go in other places and things like that. But there's a little bit we're gonna do here first. So one of the things that I don't bring up a lot on my channel because I don't know, it just makes me feel weird, but I haven't mentioned in a long time that I actually have a P.O. box. It's sometimes used when I get sent ARCs, and once in a while I'll have one of you guys reach out to me and say that you're sending me something, and I don't like bringing attention to it because obviously I love getting sent books, and I do have an Amazon wish list besides my storefront where there's books that if someone wants to send me they can, but I just feel weird about saying it out there. And as for people sending me unsolicited books, obviously that's cool. It's one of the things that when it happens to you, if you're a booktuber, it makes you feel really special. But one of the things I've learned over time is that a lot of times when, self-published authors or publicity people looking to hustle a book, they don't necessarily know what your reading tastes are. And so most of the books I've been sent during my time were books that aren't even in my, they're not what I read anymore. I've gotten sent a lot of sci-fi or fantasy books and they just weren't ones I wanted to read. And I very rarely get sent romance books to review for people. I feel like that just doesn't happen. And so I just don't want to be someone who's wasting a book that gets sent to them, right? But sometimes it's fun and I get sent stuff from you guys. And I just wanted to tell you that because I have had people ask me, but it's always in my description. I have my P.O. box down there. And this time I went to check because one person had told me they were sending me something. And I actually ended up with a few things, which I wasn't expecting. So the first thing I just want to show is I got this adorable postcard. It's this little witchy one. And it says that it's it tells me the state this is from, but the person who wrote it didn't tell me who it was. So it was just a cute little note saying that they love my videos, and it's really cute. I won't show you. Well, it has my P.O. box, which you can see, but it has all these cute stickers, and the handwriting is gorgeous. I wish I could write that nice, but I don't know who sent this to me. So please comment down below if you did, because I don't see your name anywhere, and I adore this. This is absolutely so cute, and I'm going to put it on my bookshelf, and yeah, it's this adorable little witchy on it. So then I got sent a couple other things. This one says that it is from Michaela. I won't say your last name in case you don't want me to know or want me to say, but let's see what's in these. I haven't opened them yet, so I have my knife here. I'm super excited. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is a YA sci-fi fantasy novel. It says, and there's this beautiful bookmark that she made for me. So, holy crap, this is adorable. Look at this. It must go in the book like this. Beautiful. Okay, so this is called Wakers Sayonara Sleep. Probably didn't say that right. Lava Row Darkus is a waker, a person who on the brink of sleep rises in a dreamlike reality. Nightworld is a sunless, bioluminescent plane that is led by 5 territory rulers. When Lava awakens there, she discovers that she is a guardian charged with saving the Waker people. There is a mysterious, corruptive force that threatens not only their freedom, but their lives. Meanwhile, in reality, Lava is a graduate student facing her own battles. Haunted by the memories of her missing father and sister, she struggles to cope with moving forward in her life. But as Lava spends more time in the night world, it becomes clear that she can't hide from her past in either reality state. Can Lava find out the truth behind the disappearances in her family, or will she lose herself in the dream world? Well, it's a really beautiful cover. As I had just said, sci-fi fantasy isn't what I read as much anymore, but this is really beautiful, and I will try to keep this on my TBR for soon. But I definitely adore this bookmark, Michaela. This is gorgeous, and I will definitely be using this. So thank you so much for that. And then this other one says that it just came from, it doesn't tell me who this is from, so hopefully there's a note inside. It looks like it was a Amazon fulfillment, it says, so maybe it's something from my wish list. I don't know. Oh, okay, all right. I knew about these ones. These are the ones that I went there to get. So this is the Skinwalker series, and this is actually one of my channel members, Monica Smith. She told me she'd be sending me these and was sending it to my P.O. box. I believe these are paranormal. I believe these are paranormal romances. Let me see. So there's like a novella. This one says Skinwalkers, The Uprising. And then there's 2 and 3. So this must be the first one. Skinwalkers, and then 2 and 3. Wow. These look creepy and awesome. Wow. So this one says, 3 individuals are at the pivotal point in their lives, Ashley, Gatham, and Lana, and somehow their lives will soon intertwine, but not all parties will get their happy ending. Ashley's world came crumbling down around her on July 17th. That was the day that she would face her husband for the last time. He had filed for divorce and had moved on to share his life with someone else. Around that time, Gatham, a half-breed human and wolf, found that he needed to prove himself to his pack and take an epic journey from death to life. During this journey, he must fight 7 archangels, 1 from each level of heaven. He has not provided any information or weapons. Gatham must use only his wits and survival instincts against his opponents. As Ashley's world has been shattered into a million pieces and Gatham is fighting the battle of his life to become the next alpha male of his pack, Lana, a half-breed human and wolf with healing abilities, is trying to prove her loyalty to become Gatham's wife. Although they are involved in an arranged marriage and she was promised to him, if she doesn't show her strength, she will be reincarnated and forced to repeat the cycle of rebirth and life. With a strange turn of events, Gatham cannot totally bond with Lana because her scent nauseates him. Oh, snap. That would suck. And when Ashley's unusual aroma floats into his den with the wind and envelopes his being, Gatham gathers his most trusted soldiers and hunts her down. Her scent awakens his deepest desires. Although he follows tradition and married Lana, he had a strong craving for Ashley. How will he deal with his deep desire for a woman who knows nothing about his way of life or his skinwalking abilities? Will Gatham sacrifice Lana, his home, and his way of life for a woman he is forbidden to have? Okay, so I am definitely interested in these, Monica. Wow, that sounds fantastic. These are beautiful. So thank you so much. So yeah, there you go. If you want to send me something, feel free. I will tell you, like I say, if it is a, self-published and you want me to check it out or review it, maybe reach out to my email and ask me about it first, just because I don't want to waste your time or your, work if it's not one that I'll get to in the near future, because I really, you know, I like the idea of this as like paranormal romance, but romance is really what I want. So, and it's more likely to get to, you know, there are a few arcs that I've had people send me or self-published they've sent me and they just never get read because it's not, you know, it's not in my genre. And so then I feel like you sent it to me and like I kind of wasted it. So those are beautiful. Anyway, enough of that. Now you're here for my weekly wrap up. Let me take a drink of my coffee here. There's a cool thing that I do. I thought I would share this. I love iced coffee so much, but I'm kind of lazy in that I don't like to like make it myself. So I buy the bottles of like Dunkin' Donuts cold coffee and then I mix it. This one is Almond Joy creamer and ice and milk, and it's the most delicious iced coffee, and I can make a huge thing of it. And it doesn't cost me $6 a thing. But anyway, all right, let's get started. So there's a couple books I'm just going to talk about kind of quickly just because they weren't as awesome as this stack that I have down here that I want to talk about. And we already used up a little bit of time with the unboxing, but that's fun. I mean, who doesn't love getting stuff in the mail? It's fun. So I read I Dare You by Shantel Tessier. This is a dark romance. It's kind of a forbidden romance. It's a bit of a bully romance. It is the first in like a duology. Well, it's a series, but like the first two are about the same people and then one of them's about someone else. But this is about this girl that, how do I explain this? She has just moved to live with her dad, who's this rich guy who doesn't really care about her, but her mom has a long-term boyfriend who has kind of been making the moves on her, and so she gets sent to live with her dad, and mostly it's living with her stepmom because her dad's never there. And then there's this guy, Cole, I think his name is Cole, who, it's one of those like bully romances where there's like a group and they like rule the town, and it's always really unrealistic because they're a bunch of teenagers who like rule the town. And this group, they have this group where they dare each other to do things, and you have to complete the dare if you're dared to do it. And this girl and Cole have this hate to love relationship. It was really sexy, and so it was fun. So I ended up giving it 4 stars, but after like sitting with it, I would probably bump it down to like a 3.5, just because it didn't, well, number one, it didn't have a satisfying ending. And then I started the second book, and the reason why, well, wait, freeze. The first one did have a satisfying ending because it had an ending and then it had an epilogue that was like 12 years later, and you got to see at HEA. And then when I started the second book, it went all the way back to the end of the first book where something traumatic had happened, and then was playing it through everything. And I just cared nothing for that because you'd already showed me an HEA. So it feels to me that like the author decided to write a second book after having finished the first book, and it wasn't planned that it would be more than one. That is just my take on it, because they already gave the characters an HEA, and it was a really beautiful HEA that they showed. And then they were like, just kidding. I mean, like, I know you're getting an HEA, but I'm going to rewind and show you all the shit they were still going through. And I just was like, well, then you shouldn't have showed me the HEA at the end of the first one, because now in the second one, number one, the stakes are low because I know it's going to work out. But the shit that we're in the middle of is so much that I'm like, well, how are we getting to this HEA now? So I don't know. I just wasn't here for it. And I think part of it is that I haven't been as into dark romances lately. Like, you'll see a lot of I'm just going through a phase. Like, I'm still into dark romance. That's my brand. It's a thing. But you go through waves of it. And, you know, if you read too many at one time, they can all start to blur together and kind of blend for you. And then they don't have the same kind of shock value and excitement that you get if you just read one once in a while, if that makes sense. So, yeah. So then I read books 3 and 4 in the Braffa series by Hailey Faiman. You'll know I started this last week after reading her. She had some fantasy romances that I really liked. And so I started this Mafia series by her. And so 3 and 4 were Dancing for the Badman and Living for the Badman. And number 3 was a second chance romance where the woman, her name is Tatiana, she had a baby with this guy, who is part of the Braffa, and she was a dancer, and they fell in love, and they had this, and then she actually worked with, like, the FBI to, like, get away and kind of go into, like, hiding from him or whatever. And now it's, like, so many years later, and I can't remember if, like, they run into each other again or they find each other again. And so he's super pissed that she kept this baby from him, but she's like, you're with the mafia. Like, what did you want me to do? I wanted my baby to be safe. And so it was one of those. This one wasn't my favorite in the series. I gave it a 3.5. And then I read Living for the Badman, and this is about Ashley and Yakov. And so this one was really fascinating because she had been a slave. A lot of people in this series have been slaves, so it's pretty big, like, trigger warnings for that, obviously. But then he had, like, rescued her from that, but then she kind of liked that aspect of him making all the decisions for her, so they were in kind of like a full-time master-slave dynamic, which was very unhealthy for both of them. And so he actually ended up, like, breaking up with her because he didn't think he wanted to be a father, and he didn't want to be her family, and he could see how unhealthy it was, so he broke up with her and left her. And so at the beginning of this book, we see him struggling with staying away from her because he didn't actually want to leave her, but he thought she wanted kids and a family, and which she had said that she did. And so he was like, I'm just going to be the asshole and break up with her. Well, then she starts seeing someone else, and this guy is... The way that Hailey did this kind of made me mad, because we get introduced to this guy where the other people in the mafia are trying to help her move on. So they're like, hey, we could arrange a different marriage for you because it wasn't like Yakov left you. We can find someone else for you. And so they introduce her to someone else, and he's taking his time with her. He's showing her she can have some of that dominant with a man, but she doesn't need to be in a slave dynamic. That's probably not healthy for her since she's actually been a slave. And so this man is really helping her out of it, and it was really beautiful. And it's like, I knew what was gonna happen, right? Because obviously we're getting Yakov back, like, we know that's gonna happen. So he can't stay away from her anymore. He hears that she's dating someone else, and so he comes back in, and immediately she's like, oh, he's back. But she doesn't quite go back to her slave the way that she was, which is good, because he's like, you know what, I enjoy us having the dominance too, but, like, I want you to be comfortable, and I feel like I pushed you into that because I thought that's what you needed from me. So the communication once he comes back was really great. But here's the thing. The guy who is then dating her and helping her feel better about herself, as soon as Yakov comes back, it's okay that he was upset. He's been putting time into her and helping her with her things, and then she just ditches him for Yakov as soon as he comes back. But then he starts calling her bad names. And he's like, you're just so weak. He's always going to be your man. All these things come out of his mouth. And I knew that was going to happen. But also it made me mad because I was like, why does that have to be the reaction that he had? It would be okay if he would be sad. And it would have been okay if he had been like, you know what? Are you sure that you want to go back into this? Like, it could be dangerous for you to just slide back into this. But instead, he just goes immediately to degrading her and doing all of those things that he told her she was too good for. And he immediately says them all to her. And I just wish Hailey had gone a different way with that. I wish the author had him be, I know he's part of the Braffa too, but he was being such a kind man. And there was no indication that this was like an act. Like, he wasn't acting that way so that he could win her and then was going to flip a switch. Like, that is not the character that was set up. So it just kind of upset me that he could have been sad that he quote unquote lost her, but that he went that way. So this book, I gave it 4 stars because the parts with Yakov when he came back were so good. But I was really disappointed that that character we were meeting and who helped her self-esteem so much in ways that Yakov never had, to then just be like, well, you're always going to be his whore and you're a slut and all this stuff. And I was like, come on, Hailey. Men don't have to be one or the other. Like, that's just as one-dimensional as saying that a woman is either a catty, bitchy ex or else she's a slut. Like, there are other ways to do this. Sorry, I had to give us a little bit of mood lighting because the light's always fine when I sit down to start, and then it just works. So then I started in on some of my November reads. But this one I don't feel bad about because this book club isn't necessarily tied to a month, because we're going to be having the book club discussion the second Thursday of every month. And so I read All Scot and Bothered by Kerrigan and Byrne. This is our book for the Rake Appreciation Society. You can find the link for that Discord down below if you want to. This is book 2 in the Devil in My Bed series by Kerrigan and Byrne, and I freaking love it. I love Kerrigan and Byrne. There's another book by her that I read this month too, or this week, and I love her. This one is about a curvy girl. Yes, you can't tell it from the cover, but Celia is a big, beautiful, voluptuous, curvy girl, and she's been gifted a women's school by her benefactor. And this woman's school is embroiled in a scandal currently. And we have Judge Cassius Ramsey, who is the brother, he's the half-brother from our character in the last book, which was How to Lose a Duke in 10 Days. He's the half-brother of him. He's very Scottish. He is a judge slash lawmaker slash justice bringer. And he believes that the women's school, which he thinks is a brothel, which it's not a brothel, but the women there are free to like have paramours and things that they want to. So that's why he kind of sees it as a brothel. He believes that this school, this gambling hell, because it also is a casino and stuff too, is responsible for child trafficking and for child sex slavery. So he has the wrong idea about this, maybe, but Celia doesn't know what her previous, what her benefactor was doing at this place. So she's not even sure what's going on. And so when she interacts with him at this school, she's just like, I don't know what's going on. I want to help you too. I want to help with children. He's like, yeah, right. Because he doesn't know who she is at that point. I'm explaining this book so badly, but it's so good. The things that were great about it, as with all Kerrigan Byrne, very dark story. It's very dark for historical. There's a lot of deep, dark themes going on. We start at the beginning with showing Celia being abused, which is kind of the case for all 3 of the women in this series. She is very smart and brave and awesome, and Ramsey, this is a hate to love, because it's one of those where he's so attracted to her and just wants her so bad, and he hates it because, number one, he thinks that she's a bad woman. Like, he doesn't know any different, so he's kind of an ass about it, but he doesn't know. And the thing that I kept bringing up, because there's some people already in the reading group who are kind of like, oh, I don't like him, is I'm like, the dude thinks she might be responsible for child prostitution and rape and slavery. I wouldn't be too nice to that person either. Granted, he doesn't have complete proof of it, but he wants to save kids, and it's something that nobody else in his position is trying to do. So I give him a lot of leeway for that. We know the difference because we're in her head. We know what the situation is. We know what's going on. But there's information that her benefactor had, and information that she does, and things that she's done to Ramsey in the past, that she's not the greatest woman ever. Like, she has good plans for the women that she takes care of at this school and like what she's trying to help them with, but that doesn't mean that she had her hands completely clean. So there aren't completely innocent people in this story, but it is delicious. I love Ramsey. I love their chemistry. It was so good. I loved it. 5 stars. Easy peasy. Then I read Strong Enough by Melanie, Harlow, and David something. Sorry, I don't have his name written down. And this was a male-male romance by Melanie Harlow, which I remember that I knew about, but then I never got around to it. I listened to this one on Audible Escape. And this is about Derek and Maxim. And so Maxim is from Russia, and he's just moving here to work. He wants to become a screenwriter. Well, he lands in LA, and the house that he's supposed to move into isn't ready. And through some accidents and like kismet and things, he ends up staying at Derek's house, who is a brother to the woman who ends up meeting Maxim and all these things. And so Derek, he has been struggling with his sexuality for a while. He comes from a very religious family. And Maxim, he's gay, He hasn't really talked about it too much since he's just moved here from Russia. But they had, like, Maxim ends up staying at Derek's house and things escalate. And I like this because it wasn't completely a gay for you story, because Derek has been struggling with these feelings for a while. He just hasn't had someone safe to try them out with, and he's really been hiding it. So it wasn't a straight up, like, I've been straight forever and now you're turning me gay. It was, he was already struggling with it. It's also an age gap. Maxim is like 25 and Derek is 35, maybe a little older. So I really like that too. I love age gaps, no matter what the sexual orientation of anyone is. I love age gaps. And it was good. The thing is that I like the internal struggle of these kind of things. Like, I do like the angst of, I'm afraid to tell my family about it and stuff. I mean, that's not fun in real life, but in a book, I like the angst of, especially when it's actually your family doesn't give a fuck and it's you who has the problem with it, which is really kind of the case with Derek, is he's so worried how his family will feel when he's actually the one who's holding it inside more than his family is. So it was good. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was fun. It was cute. I love a male-male romance. I like that this one was written by both a man and a woman. I'm trying to read more male-males written by men, or, you know, consulted by at least. That's something that's new for me to try to do that. But this one, it was great. And the one thing, though, is, so I listened to this on audio, and the guy who was doing the voice for Maxim, his Russian accent was really annoying. Like, honestly, the guy who did the voice for Derek, when he did Maxim's voice, it was way sexier than the guy who was playing Maxim. So, that was annoying about it. Then I read this one, which was also on my November TBR. So, this is A Favor for a Favor by Helena Hunting. Didn't know that this was actually book 2 in the series, but you can read these kind of in any order anyway. This is a spin-off from the Pucked series, so we get to see a lot of characters we loved before, including like Alex and Violet, and like we get to see all their kids, and I love it. I love it so much. But this one is about Stevie and what's his name? Stevie and Bishop. And so Stevie is a physical therapist and Bishop is a newer guy on the team, and he actually has kind of a, like, not a great relationship with Stevie's brother, who's also on the team, but he ends up getting injured, and he's in neighbors with Stevie because Stevie is staying in her brother's apartment, and it's like a thing that the team owns. So he's like across the way, and one night he is injured and he's coming back home, and they've had like an antagonistic relationship already, and his brother lives with him, and his brother has left a sock on the door, and so he's injured and he's just literally like laying outside of his apartment on the floor waiting for his brother to get done with his hookup. And then Stevie comes home and offers to let him like lay on her couch for the night. And so there's really like a hate to love between these two. And she wants to get like one up on her physical therapy training, and like she's becoming she's licensed for it. And so he gets permission to have like a double PT. So he has PT with the team relegated one, and then he's having PT with her. But then like a relationship is forming between them, and they kind of need to keep it a secret because it's not good if he's have a relationship with his physical therapist. It could be a problem. And also it's his teammate's sister. So this was really cute. I love Helena Hunting sport books so much. And so I read Favor for a Favor, and then I read A Secret for a Secret, which was so good. Like, that book was great. I gave that one 4 stars. A Secret for a Secret was 5 stars, and I found another book boyfriend. So, oh gosh, this is so good. So A Secret for a Secret is about King. I think his name is like Kingston, and then Queenie. It's so good. It's so good. And so A Secret for a Secret, they have a one-night stand together, and then they don't see each other for a while, and then it turns out she is the daughter of the new team manager, of the general manager, and she has a job with him helping with, like, I don't know if it's HR or his assistant or whatever. So she's totally off limits. Well, King, he actually has the reputation as being a good boy. Like, he is from I don't know if it's a religious family, but just like a really like put together family. He actually dated one girl for like a really long time, and she was actually like more in love with his family than with him at a point. So they've been broken up for a while. They were broken up when he had his fling with Queenie, but Queenie's dad actually asks King to like look out for his daughter, and the story was so cute because when it gets to the point where their relationship is like they're spending so much time together, they're really good friends at this point, and then King says, he's like, I want to date you, and I don't want to sneak around with it. I want to ask for your dad's permission to date you. And I just went into a puddle because he totally is planning to ask his dad. I'll tell you this one funny story in it, and I won't spoil anything because, I mean, it's a romance, but you know, they've decided that they're going to date, and he's like, well, we're not going to have sex yet because I want to ask your dad first. Like, I want to ask your dad first. But they're like making out, and she goes down on him, and he starts like breaking out. And it's because he's very allergic to strawberries. And before he came over, she just had her dinner and she'd had a strawberry shake. So he's literally breaking out all the way down and on his dick. So, and then like, they're terrified because he's like, I've never had like anaphylaxis, but allergies are something that can get worse. So they end up running into her dad. And they have to get him some Benadryl, and he's okay. But then he asks the dad, and he's like, I swear, sir, I swear to you, I was gonna ask you the next day. We were just making it. And he's like, son, it's okay. If there was anybody on this team that I would allow to date my daughter, it's you. It's okay. But they're literally in the room like next door to her dad's. And so he's like, I'm going to time you. Nothing's going to happen while you're on the road, okay? Nothing's going to happen. So, but anyway, King and Queenie are adorable. And I thought it was super cheesy right away that like her name was Queenie and his nickname was King. But it worked for me. It worked for me so good. And the drama that happens in this one, I really like it because Queenie is the one who second guesses herself all the time, and she's very insecure about because her life's a little bit of a mess, and like King is so well organized and put together, and he's so great. And so when these things come up and she's just like, this is it, like he's gonna leave me now, he's gonna discover what a hot mess that I am, and King just proves over and over again that like it's okay, like my life can get a little messy. I want you more than I want a perfectly sanitized life. And I loved that. I love a hero who, you know, it's okay sometimes if a hero or a heroine has that freak out where they're like, you know, I don't think I can handle it. It's annoying. None of us like it, but it's real. But I loved about King that she assumes that he's going to be done. And he's just like, why? Like, I just needed 10 minutes. I just needed to like breathe. I needed to sleep it over. But I was never like, I'm done with you because of your drama. And I loved it. I loved King. So I am actually reading the first one right now. So it's not in the wrap up for this. But I read 2 and 3. And then I'm actually listening to the first one right now. And that one's just as cute. So, and I believe the next series that the author is doing is that she's doing ones for the kids. So the next one is going to be like Lavender, who is Violet and Alex's daughter. And that's really cool because we get to see her in A Secret for a Secret. That Lavender has some like neurodivergence possibly, and she's an artist, and Queenie is an artist too, so she's doing like art therapy with her. So I'm very excited to read that when it comes about. So then I read this little duology. The duology doesn't have a name. In fact, they weren't even considered a series, but like they definitely are because each book is about a twin in the siblings. So the first one is called Mr. Fixerupper. This is by Lucy Score, and this is a think HGTV. And so there's this brother and a sister who do these house renovations, and they do kind of a like the makeover, extreme makeover home edition for like worthy people. And so we have Paige, who is the like assistant director, and she has worked with these this brother and sister for a while, and she has this kind of like hate to love relationship with the brother. His name is Gannon, and they have just been dancing around this chemistry for a long time, and she's trying to break out in the industry and get to be a director and do her own stuff, and Gannon only really agreed to do this kind of show because they were saving his family's business, and now he wants to be able to break off and do different things as well. And it was just really cute. If you love the HGTV stuff, this could be really fun. I never read the Honey Don't List, but from what I've heard about the Honey Don't List, I feel like this is maybe a fun alternative to that because there wasn't as much angst in this one. This was also one, like, if you like books about, like, famous people, because Gannon is semi-famous, you know, think like Chip and Joanna, except it's with his sister instead of with a wife or something. And like she really doesn't, you know, Paige really doesn't want to be in the spotlight that way. But it was really cute. And then the next one in that was called The Christmas Fix, which just would be the perfect holiday book for you to read. I normally don't really like reading holiday books, but this one worked for me. So this one then is about the sister, Kat, and she mostly runs like a spin-off show now because her brother, he, you know, doesn't do TV really anymore because this is a few years after the first one. And so he's married to Paige and they're like doing all their stuff. And so there's this hurricane that comes through and is going to take down this town that is called Merry, like Merry. And she gets her network to agree to do this special so it's a town where like everybody comes there for the Christmas special. Well, it gets hit with a hurricane just like 2 months before Christmas, and it could decimate this town because if they're not put back together by the time Christmas happens, they won't be able to make their income that they need to keep going. Well, the town like manager, that's what they like call him or something, he has had a bad experience with the TV show before when they worked on, because they worked on one person's house back when they were doing the TV show. And so he just like did not like how they acted in his town. And so this is a single father romance. He has a 12-year-old daughter. I also really loved it because he has a great relationship with his ex-wife. They are co-parenting. We get to see the like new husband, like his wife has just gotten remarried to a new guy, and they're also friends. And I just have to tell you, that warms my heart so much. There was no like jealousy or sabotage or fighting over the kid. They were working together, and it was really, really beautiful. And so Noah, it takes Kat a while to wear him down and realize that like you're being an idiot. The TV station is gonna pay for all of this to happen to your town. And the publicity it's going to bring you, you're going to have the biggest Christmas celebration you've ever had before. So it takes her a while to wear him down, but once she does, they start doing this. And this is, again, kind of a hate to love. A bit more of a hate than like Paige and Gannon were because they had known each other for a longer time. But I really, really liked this. It was really fun. If you like reading Christmas books, this one could be really fun. And it could be read as a standalone. You don't have to read the first one. But again, there's that home improvement stuff going on. And it was really fun. I really, really loved reading this. So then I also read Captive by R.J. Lewis. So I actually talked about this one in my monthly wrap-up, which you probably saw just the other day. So I won't talk as much about it here because if you watch that one, it was one of my top 5 of the month. So you can hear me talk a lot more about it. But this is a captor-captive romance, and it's told in a really interesting way. It's broken up into 3 parts. It's broken up into present time, the beginning, which is the past, and then the after, which is technically like present time as well, but you'll see when you read it. This is about Vixen, who is being held captive by Nixon on his private island. It's not private island as in like deserted private island. Like it's an island where it has thriving, like everything. Like it's not huge, but it's an island where some rich people live. But he owns the hotel that he keeps her in, and he doesn't really let her leave. And they have this strange consensual non-consent. I mean, technically it would all be non-consent because she's being captive, but she really likes their sexual experiences together. This book, I would consider this kind of advanced for a captor-captive situation, not because of the, like, it's not particularly violent. Like, I would consider Twist Me, like, Julian way more twisted than Nixon. I really liked Nixon a lot, and it's one of these stories that I want to be careful what I say because the way it unfolds was so cool. This was suggested to me by, I think her name is Maria. I just read a comment about it. But she suggested this to me on Goodreads, and I was kind of in the mood for it. Since we read like captive books in October, and in November we're doing consensual non-consent. And so you get to see where she's at, and you know that Vixen has been being held by Nixon for about 2 years. And he gives her everything she needs, but she's very unhappy. And we don't know what led her to be here with him until a certain event happens. And Nixon says, like, I think you need to remember how we got here and, like, why you're here with me. And so then we get to the second part, which is the beginning, and we go back and see how they met and how she ends up in the hands of Nixon, and that things aren't as they appear. Like, he's not this evil, horrible man who took someone for twisted reasons. There were steps that led us here, and while he is still holding her captive, not all of this is a non-consensual situation. Not all of this is him doing things against her will. And it was fascinating. And then we get the third part where we get to see how everything will be at the end, and I loved it. This is a big book. This is almost 600 pages. I bought it on Audible because it was only like $7.50 for the Audible of it, and I loved it. I really did. It was one of my favorite books of the month because it was more than just this. It was very psychological, and it's what makes us a captive, and what would you do if you were in the same kind of situation she got to. Much different from you were a targeted take by this person and they are sadistic about it. Like, Nixon loves Vixen, and not in a messed up way. Like, he loves her and he's trying to give her everything that she needs. So anyway, you my dark twisted lovelies, read this, tell me what you think, but I really, really enjoyed it. So let me see if there was any other okay, a couple of these. So I did read Queen Takes Rose by Katee Robert. This comes out November 10th. This is the 6th and final book in the Wicked Villains. I'm part of Katee's, I'm part of her Patreon, so I get to read all the books like as soon as they're finished. All of her self-published, her traditionally published books, she can't offer those. But this book is about Malone and Aurora, and Malone being kind of like Maleficent. So this is a sapphic romance, which is the first one that is completely sapphic that I've read. Aurora is bisexual, but this is one that's been being built up through pretty much the whole series. Like, we knew this couple was happening. We knew this relationship was going to be a thing. All right. Sorry, the light keeps changing. Now we got complete black back there because the sun decided to come out and put streaks on my face. So I went in more depth in my Goodreads review of this. This wasn't my favorite, and I'm sad about that because I was excited for this. I was hyped. And I realized a couple things too. The main reason, because it wasn't the sapphic part of it that was an issue for me. Like, I've read every combination of people at this point. And I really enjoyed sexy scenes between Ursa and Ziriel in The Sea Witch. But for me, it was the kind of dom that Malone is. The kind of dominant that she is not the kind that I like reading about. I also expected there to be more scenes with other people from the cast in there. And granted, Katee gives that to us a lot in her, like, shorts. Like, if you are a member of her Patreon, she does a short once a month where you get to pick, you literally can pick which of her characters you want in a scene, and she'll do them for you. But I was really hoping we get to see more play with other people involved in this, and it was just a lot of Aurora and Malone at Malone's penthouse. And there's some set up for Sabine Valley, which I'm very excited for that series. It just wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be. And so, you know what? That's okay. I don't have to love every Katee Robert. I want to love every Katee Robert. But this one just wasn't for me. And I don't think that it will be for other people. You know, like, this is gonna do it for some other people. But I just don't like the kind of dom that Malone is. She's one of those, like, I want to control everything. And Aurora's a brat. So there's a lot of punishments that just aren't my favorite. A lot of orgasm denial or over orgasm that I'm just not here for. I like a little bit more playfulness, and I mean, it gets to that by the end, but this is also one of the longest books in the series. And I wish that that length had been in some other of her books that I like. Like, I feel like Katee's books are always too short for me. And then this one, I'm just never satisfied. No, I'm just kidding. I'm usually satisfied, but... So this one I gave a 3.5, and it hurt me to do, but I would be dishonest if I said it was a 5 just to give her a 5. Like, I would never do that for anyone. So, yeah. I talked through it with Crystal, and yeah, I don't know. I definitely am looking forward to her Sabine Valley books and the Sacrifice books that are coming out, but this one just wasn't quite it. But I'm very excited to get the copy in my hands, because the series is beautiful to look at, and I just love her. So, it's good. I also read another arc. This one was called The Agent by Nancy Harkness. This was a NetGalley arc. I'm actually working my way through quite a few arcs this week. I'm trying to do that to cool it on some of my November books, but I haven't been doing great with that. But yeah, this one was okay. This was the third in a series. That happens to me all the time on NetGalley. I end up picking books that are like book 3 or 4 in a series or something. And this one just, it was okay. It was okay. This one was this woman, she's run away from a bad relationship, and now she's being stalked. And one of this guy she meets at a friend's wedding, he is an ex-FBI agent. And when he brings her home after the wedding, she asks him to, like, walk through her house because it looks like it might have been disturbed. And then he ends up getting involved in trying to keep her safe and trying to figure out who's stalking her. So it was okay. I gave it a 3-star. I've read better. All right. Okay. Now we have some historicals to talk about. And I know that we are 48 minutes in already, but you guys tell me to just keep talking. So that's what I'm doing. I read Dark and Stormy Night, A Dark and Stormy Night by Kerrigan Byrne. This is book 7 in the Victorian Rebels, and it's book 1 in her new Good Girls series. However, there will be another Victorian Rebels book that I can't remember the name of it, but it's going to be about another character that we already know. And then the heroine in this one, her name is Prudence Good. She has some sisters that the Good series is going to be about. And so both of these series now are like, this isn't self-published because it's by a publisher, but I think it's a small one. So this one is Oliver Herbert Books. So obviously it's not one of her mass markets. There's this cover that matches the Victorian Rebels, but then there's an alternate cover. This book is also called A Perfect Stranger. So if you can't find this cover anymore, which you have to find on used sites now, I helped Crystal find a copy of it by going to Abe Books. You're going to find the other cover, the one for A Perfect Stranger, but they're the same book. So I bought the audio for this one. This is about Carlton Morley, who we meet in The Highwayman. We meet him in the first book. He actually is courting Farah. He's Farah's boss in the beginning of the series. And currently he is an undercover Batman who's called the Knight of, I can't remember what he's called. Let me find it because it's really cute. Let me find his name. the Knight of Shadows. So he's called the Knight of Shadows because he feels that within the breadth of the law, he's not able to do everything that he wants. And one night, he's undercover at a brothel, and this woman, Prudence, is going there to lose her virginity, and so she ends up asking him to take her virginity, and then she ends up getting pregnant that night, and so she's going to still marry her fiancé, and then her fiancé gets murdered at their wedding. And then Carlton happens to be there because of reasons. And then he finds out about everything. He sees her holding the bloody knife. She's like, oh my God, it's you. You are the man from the brothel. And by the way, I'm 3 months pregnant. And yeah, and so then he's like, oh shit, you might have killed someone. But he was a bad guy. So let me marry you to protect you. But I don't want to love you because you might be a murderer. So I explained that really quickly. But yeah, this is super sexy right off the bat because we get to see their night together. And then Carlton is just so drawn to her, but he's trying to fight it because he thinks she might be a murderer. And then he's like, well, does it matter if she's a murderer because she killed this guy who was doing these horrible things? Whatever. But it's amazing. It's so good. It was fantastic. This series continues to be great. I can't wait to read the books about the other sisters because one of the sisters like that the next book about is I'm so excited. I don't want to spoil it, but it was great. Kerrigan Byrne. If you're not reading her yet, I don't know what to tell you. Why aren't you reading her yet, guys? Then I read Four Nights with the Duke by Eloisa James. This is the historical romance pick for my book club that we do, which is in my Discord. This was one of the Eloisa James that I hadn't read yet. This book is super fun. This is about Mia and Vander, and they are kind of sort of step siblings, but not. So her dad and his mother have been having a long-standing affair since they were teenagers because his father was in a mental asylum off and on. He was also a pretty abusive man. And now Mia, she needs to be the guardian of her brother's son, so of her nephew. Her brother has just died, and Mia needs a husband to be the guardian. If she doesn't have a husband, the guardianship of her nephew goes to this sucky cousin that they have, or whatever. And so she blackmails Vander into marrying her. And Vander, thinking that he's being clever, is like, well, I'm only going to sleep with you 4 days. 4 months. 4 days a year. And she's like, okay, fine. And he's like, only if you beg me will I sleep with you. Because he thinks that she's obsessed with him. Because when she was young, she was obsessed with him. And she's like, haha, joke's on you. I only plan to be married to you for 6 months. Because once I've established guardianship, then I can divorce your ass and keep my nephew and not have to deal with you. And then Vander is like, what? You're not actually planning to sleep with me? I only made that rule because I wanted you to beg for me. I didn't realize you actually don't give a fuck if you sleep with me or not. So that's the setup. This was delicious. I listened to the audio for this. It was amazing. I love Eloisa James. I'm sparing with the books that I have left to read by her. I only have a couple because they are amazing. So if you want to chat with me about this book, you can join my Discord and we can be friends and talk about this book. It's great. Whew. And then the last one I have to talk about, which I finished last night, and again, it was another book from my November TBR, and that was Her Night with the Duke by Diana Quincy. That's right, I read this. I also bought the audio for this book. This book was great. I've been hearing everyone talk about it. I knew it was going to be good. Crystal and I picked this as one of our buddy reads. I'm sorry I read it so soon, Crystal, but you're going to love it. This book is about Leela, who she married her father's friend when she was only 17, and they were together for 17 years. For 7 years, and then he died. And so it's been 2 years since he died. She's pretty much best friends with her stepdaughter, who is like 7 years younger than her, but she's like a mom and a sister to her. And she's coming home to visit because her daughter-in-law is possibly going to be marrying a duke. And so on the way home, there's this big storm. She gets stuck at this inn. She is also half, what is she? Half Palestinian? I'm not sure. What half is she? I can't remember, but she is half something because her mother is from a different country. And so she's never really fit in, even though she's done everything to please the ton. Well, her mother did everything to please the ton, and she still hasn't fit in. And so her stepson, he's really cruel to her, also because he wants to sleep with her really bad, because he's like older than her. And so he's got that kind of like hate lust going on. But anyway, she gets stuck at this inn, and it's a pretty like rough spot that she's in. And then we get Elliot, who also is stuck at the inn, and he offers her to stay with him, and it becomes really clear that they are both super sexually attracted to each other. So they have this night of super great sex, and then he leaves before she wakes up, because he's like, he's not engaged yet, but he's engaged to be engaged. And he's kind of embarrassed, and if he spends any more time with her, he knows that he would just, ditch everything for her. But then he shows up at the house of his soon-to-be betrothed, and who would be the stepmother-in-law but Delilah, Leela. And yeah, so then there's lots of secret looks and touches, and she encourages, she doesn't want to step in the way of her stepdaughter's happiness. And Leela very much encourages her stepdaughter to marry for love, because that's what her parents did. And so she really wants Leela to do that. Leela really wants Victoria to do that. So much so that, and so afraid that her opinion of like her wanting Elliot is getting in the way, that she pushes them together when neither of them really feels it anymore. So I didn't know how this book was going to go. Of course I didn't, because I'd stayed away from spoilers for it, but it was really great. The angst in this book was so high, because Elliot is just so into her, and she's into him too, but she's hiding it very well, because she's like, I can't get in Victoria's way if she wants to be with him. And it was fantastic. I gave it 5 stars. I adored it. I love these people. This is the first in a new series. This is Diana Quincy's first historical romance. It looks like she's written some nonfiction things and some other stories, and I love her. I loved it. It was great. It was so different. It had diversity. Leela is a writer, and she's a travel writer, so she goes all over the Middle East and is writing travel books about it that people in England are just gobbling it up. And it's so great. I loved it. I understand why Jess loved it, and some other people who read it loved it too. So yeah, it was fantastic. Okay, thanks for sticking around for this super ass long weekly reading wrap up. You know how it goes. Make sure you check out info down below. I always have my P.O. box. I always have my Amazon lists for recommendations to you. Check out my Goodreads if you want to know what I'm currently reading. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye.